Howdy. All right, y'all, we got Jessica Routier on board. I was looking up and going to explain to everybody who you are, but no one's going to be able to do that any better than you. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, I am a mother of 5, a barrel racer from Buffalo, South Dakota. Getting ready to go to my 5th NFR this year, so that's really exciting. And my husband and I ranch in a small community in the northwest corner of South Dakota and raise horses and cattle and kids.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, you kind of almost answered question number 1, so I'm going to dive in more to it. So with you, did it start with ranching as a kid, or what started the whole thing for you?
So I actually grew up on a farm in Wisconsin, and my parents both rodeoed. My mom trained horses, so rodeo has just been something I've done my whole life. It's what led me to South Dakota as I went to college on a rodeo scholarship in Rapid City and met my husband, and then ended up staying in South Dakota and continuing to ride horses and ranch and rodeo. And yeah, it's never really been something I've had to choose to do. It's just something I've always done.
Well, so with that being said, some kids would want to rebel and go against. What made you embrace it and want to keep doing it and be a part of it?
Honestly, it sounds really cheesy, but just the love of horses, I think, has always been what it's been for me. I just, I've rode so many horses since I was a kid, and it just never gets old.
So what else was ranching and horses just life? Did you do stuff outside of it? Were you an athlete with anything else, or what all was growing up like?
It was definitely the core of my being, but I like to do a variety of things. So I played basketball, I played volleyball, I was a gymnast for 10 years. I sang, I was in the swing choir where you sing and dance, student council. I was just one of those kids that kind of drove my parents crazy because I had to be a part of everything. But yeah, I there's a ton of things I love to do, but at the end of the day, it was always the horses that I came back to.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, let's fast forward to now with getting ready. So, last interview, I was kind of talking about how, like, as a musician, people think we just step on stage and that's all that goes into it. And that's not even remotely close. So let's start with at home. What is prep and training and working with the horses? Like, what's a day in the life at home to even before you even think about leaving to go out?
So honestly, I just, I ride as many horses as I can a day. I don't ride as many as I used to because our kids have consumed a lot of our life, which is great, but they're all into the horses too. So again, around school and sports, that's what we do the rest of the day. But I've got my main horse that's taken me to all these NFRs, and the main thing is just keeping her in shape and healthy and ready to go, because if she's happy, then the rest just falls into place. So keeping her in shape and keeping myself in shape, I guess, are the main goals when it comes to getting ready for competition.
I love it. Let's dive into the kids. Are they following in mom and dad's footsteps, or are they the other way?
Yeah. So our oldest is our only boy. He is almost 17. So I'm already having a little bit of that anxiety that he's going to be out of the house pretty soon, even though he's only a junior this year. But he loves to rope. He thinks he wants to go south when he's done with high school and go to college somewhere down there and rope. He bulldogs too. And so, and ranches, he's been a great help over the years on the ranch. So he definitely is. Then our oldest daughter is 14. She actually got really into trick riding for a few years, which is one thing I had never done.
That's a whole different ordeal.
Yeah, so she did that for probably 6 or 7 years. Now she's gotten more into the roping and barrel racing side of things. So we stay busy going to her rodeos for that. And then our 3 youngest we've got twins that are 7, and then one that's 6, all girls. And of course, they're on horses and ride every chance that they can get. And they don't even really care what they're doing at this point on a horse, as long as it's on a horse. So we have a lot of fun.
I love it. I love it. So how many days a year are y'all gone on the road? Are you the kind that stays out a lot, or are you selective on what rodeos you?
I try to be selective. I try to be home as much as possible. Our kids go to school. We don't homeschool. They like their sports and everything else. So they like to be here. This year was a little different. I wasn't as high up in the standings as I would have liked to be at the end of the season. And so I had to stay out pretty much through the end of September. Through last weekend was my last weekend out. And so that was a little harder because then school was in session and volleyball games and football games were happening, and had to miss a few of them. And I don't like to do that. So normally I do go in the winter a little bit. But like last year, I made 5 trips back and forth from South Dakota to Texas right before fuel got really high.
Mm-hmm.
So I drive back and forth. I don't stay down there. And then I'm usually home in the spring and the beginning of summer because that's when our junior high and high school rodeos were. And then, even the summer, I live in South Dakota, so it's actually pretty central to a lot of the summer rodeos. So I'd go for a week and be home for a few days and then go out for a week again. And so thankfully, I've never had to just go and be gone the whole summer, which has really been a key factor because I don't know that I'd be able to do that.
So I'm going to tell you this so it makes sense when we put all these out. So you're the polar opposite of the last interview I had. She's 19, her rookie. Yep. She literally said she's going to finish into September and starts right back October 1st. So there was no off season, no downtime. You're obviously a seasoned vet. You want that now. I know that feeling. I used to be the kind, keep my suitcase packed, keep me on the road. I don't ever want to be home. Well, you get engaged and get home and that kind of changes. So you actually have a little bit of an off season. So how does that differ from actual riding season and show season for you? Like as far as your prep and what you have to do, what's a day like compared to one or the other?
Yeah, so I mean, the really only difference is I'm either at home riding horses or I'm not at home riding horses. So obviously, when I'm home, the horses are fit in between the kids' schedules, volleyball games and football games right now. But again, I just try to get, when you're on the road a lot too, that's a struggle. If you are trying to get young horses brought up and going, it's a struggle to get them going when you're not home. So that's another reason I like to try to be home, to keep those young horses coming up through the pipeline. And not only for myself, but for my kids, because they require a lot of horsepower as well. And so, yeah, I just, no matter where I'm at, if I'm home or I'm gone, that's my main thing during the day, is trying to keep these horses ridden and keep them going. And when we are home, I try to give my rodeo horse as much time off as I can, but not too much to let her get out of shape either. So
yeah. Now, do y'all breed and train your own, or do y'all go find them and take over? What's your process with the horses and picking them out?
So we breed and train our own, and then probably, gosh, it's been, I think 12 years ago, I used to ride a lot of horses for the public. And through that, I had started riding horses for Gary Westergren. He's a retired engineer from Lincoln, Nebraska, and horses were just kind of his hobby. And that's actually who Missy, the horse that's taken me to these 5 NFRs, she belongs to him. And so he and I kind of started this working relationship 12 years ago, where his horses would just come to my house when they became riding age, and we just bring them up through the pipeline like they're our own and see where they can go. And if there's something we want to go on with, we keep them. And if not, if they're mares, he'd take them back and breed them, or if they're geldings, we'd sell them. And so basically everything I ride is either raised by us or raised by Gary at this point.
That's awesome. So obviously my crowd's going to be more on the music side of things. I may not know much about the horse life. So what does it take to breed and break and train? I mean, what's the steps? I mean, what all do you do? How do you make a horse do what you want it to, for folks that don't have a clue about it?
Well, it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of luck at the same time, because I mean, obviously you study genetics, and there's, certain crosses on mares and stallions that have proven to be successful over the years. But then sometimes you have one come along that is a complete outcross and it just blows everyone out of the water. So that's kind of the luck side. But I mean, it takes a long time too. So obviously you breed a mare to a stud, you wait 11 months for this baby to be born. And then, you don't really do much. You halt or break them and kind of get them used to people up the first 2 years. Mm-hmm. And you really don't start riding them till you're 2. And I don't really start competing on them till they're 5. Some people do when they're 4. So, I mean, you look at that, and basically from the time you start your plan for this baby, you've got a good 6 or 7 years before you even realize if it might work out or not. So you generally have several plans in the works at one time so that at least hopefully one of them works out. But, and I mean, the thing about what we do is we barrel race and we rope and we ranch. We do a variety of different things, and not every horse, you might plan on a horse being a good barrel horse and they might just not like it, but they might like roping or they might like something else too. And so that's kind of the nice thing at our house is they normally will find a job that they like, and that's half the battle. If they don't like it, they're probably not going to be very good at it. So
I love it. I love it. Well, let's dive into the part that everybody loves seeing now. What's, when you leave the house, like, how do y'all travel? What's the days like? And then even getting into the ring and actually riding, like tell us about that whole experience.
You have to be really flexible in a lot of different ways because, especially traveling with kids. So every trip is different for me. Obviously my three youngest the youngest just went to school for the first time this year. So that was a big adjustment for me because I've always had kids with me so I don't get too lonely. But this fall I was by myself and that really sucks. But,
yep.
so yeah, it's, we drive a lot of miles. The winter rodeos especially are in the middle of big cities, Denver, San Antonio, Houston. And so it can be a challenge to get your gigantic pickup and trailer into some of these places. So I'm kind of a creature of habit. I try to just go the same places every year because then I know how to get in and out. But every rodeo creates its own challenge. Puyallup, Washington, we were just at, and their rodeo is at the state fair, the Washington State Fair, and you literally ride your horse. It's like a 20-minute walk on your horse through the middle of the state fair, like the midway with all the food vendors, and all the people are just swarming around you. And I mean, it's super stressful because people are a little bit clueless that, that they just might walk right in front of you or, just come up and pet your horse on the butt and scare them. And my horses are kid broke, so I'm pretty sure they're not going to hurt anybody, but it's still stressful because you'd hate to step on someone on accident or, just things like that. So there's a lot. I've always said a successful rodeo horse is not so much the one that maybe is the fastest in the arena, but one that can handle everything else outside of the arena, because that, and just the hauling, hauling can be really stressful on horses, but the ones that tend to not stress and just kind of take it all in stride are the ones that seem to last the longest too.
Well, let me look back into where you said like the 20-minute walk thing. So what do you have to do different on a day like that? I mean, obviously fatigues a horse to some extent. Do you have to do any other kind of prep, or what do you do to cancel that out?
Yeah, there's things like they make, there's a few different companies that make a boot you actually can put on a horse's feet, because walking on pavement a lot of times can be, just extra added stress on their bones and their feet and things. So there's things like that we do to just make sure they're comfortable. And, some horses, if you can take a friend, a buddy horse along with, that will kind of help ease the stress. And so we'll do that sometimes. And yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just getting to know your horse and what their specific needs are to keep them happy and keep them not stressed, because horses are really prone to ulcers. So if you don't eliminate their stress and they get ulcers, that can cause all sorts of problems too. And so, yeah. And then, just figuring out where to warm up, because you either have to warm up somewhere before that 20-minute walk, or there's like a little spot to warm up once you get up there. But yeah, it's just lots of, the winter rodeos too, there's not a lot of places to warm up at those. And so you just, like I stretch my horses a lot, just standing there, I'll lift their legs and do a lot of different stretches with them. And that helps the lack of warm up area sometime. But Rapid City, South Dakota Rodeo, which is close to home for me, it's in February in South Dakota. So a lot of times it's 10 below zero. And yeah, you just adapt. Luckily, most rodeo horses are adaptable and they won't buck you off if you don't get to warm them up for 10 minutes, hopefully. So like I said,
a lot of
large
people
part
don't
of.
know. Oops, sorry, I mean to cut you off there.
No,
I'm
you're
wanting to
fine.
chime in there because I think a lot of folks don't realize, like, when you have performance horses that, are
Mhm.
athletes. I mean, it's just like a
Mhm.
football player. They've got to take
Mhm.
care of their bodies. There's a lot of
Right.
maintenance, the stretching, all that. So
Mhm.
I think that's the part here that we want to relay to folks of what kind of extra work goes in. Because I think a lot of folks think
Right.
it's the rider, but it's really the horse that's the
Right.
majority of it.
And it's just so important to have them in shape, in good physical condition before you get there, because then they can be more flexible. Whereas if they're not in very good shape, then they're more prone to get hurt if they don't get warmed up enough and things like that. So,
What about you? I mean, obviously you have to take care of your body and be in shape. What do you do in those frigid conditions when it's terrible like that?
um, I wear my snow pants everywhere. Like, I'm the girl that is bundled up, and I'll finally get into the rodeo arena, and then I can, strip everything off. But I hate being cold. But yeah, just that's part of it too, keep yourself moving, because obviously you can't ride to your best ability if your muscles are tight and cold. And even if you need to jog some laps yourself around your horse, or hand walk them, or
Yeah.
whatever you need to do. So yeah, I mean, it's a large part of it. A lot of barrel racers I know run whenever they can when they're on the road. They go out for runs, or have a workout schedule. I don't really do that. I'm usually chasing kids around, so that's my running. um, but and just anyone that, if you ride a lot of horses in a day, that's a pretty good physical workout too. So
Yeah, I've seen that myself, but I was curious if you did any other kind of training. But I'm with you. If you do enough of it, I think you're pretty much set.
yep.
So what's obviously in rodeo you don't have men barrel racers competing, but are
Mhm.
there any struggles being a female in the rodeo circuit that you see, or things that you think people don't realize, or an issue that you have to overcome out there?
Yeah, I mean, not really. I think it's just like anything else. If you're a female out traveling by yourself, you need to be extra careful. I've always so and I like I'm very aware of my surroundings, try to be as careful as I can. But I always try to tell myself that, most people, I think, if they saw a big pickup with a 34-foot trailer pull into the gas station, they're not going to plan on there being someone in it that they can go take advantage of, hopefully. Um, but yeah, it's, and like the big winter rodeos, they have really good security, so you don't feel too unsafe staying at those places. But we definitely lock our doors at night and things like
Yeah.
that. So as far as like being a woman in the rodeo world, I don't really feel any challenges that way. It's just like traveling,
So
anywhere as a woman, you just need to be extra careful these days, because there's crazy people in this world.
yeah, that's no joke. On our last interview, like I said, she's younger and had definitely
Mhm.
different intakes on certain parts of it. But when I asked her that question, she said that the girls are so much more cutthroat. The guys will compete and then go, okay, who's got the beer? Do you see that side of it
Yeah.
where girls will be a little more mean or do things to get advantages, or is that maybe something on a younger level?
I really don't. I don't know if I'm just lucky, or if I just have had in my opinion, there's way more girls out there that are just always going to be the first one to help you, even if it might put themselves at a disadvantage. Like this last weekend was a huge true testament to that, because there were so many girls competing for those last few spots to get into the top 15, and they're all out there helping each other and cheering each other on. And it's like anything else. Once in a while, you'll probably see something that was just like not the right thing to do, but for the most part, in my experience, everyone's always been just kind of like one big family and super helpful to each other.
So that's what I was about to ask after that is, like within the country music world, a lot of us start off at the bottom. We're doing writers' nights
Mm-hmm.
together, and then all of a sudden, we'll grow. And next thing you know, somebody's got a record deal, and it goes from there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this bond because you were in those trenches together. Do you see
Yes.
a lot of that with the ones that started when you did, and as y'all have grown older? Is it a camaraderie?
Yeah, definitely. And that's, you hope to be inclusive to everyone that's coming in, but I could see where if it's your first year, I know my first year, it's not that I felt like anyone was, out to get me or anything, but you just maybe don't feel like you're kind of in with all the in crowd quite yet, which is fine. Cause again, like I've always had that. I've had my kids to take care of. And so
Yeah.
I kind of go to the rodeo, do my thing, go back to my trailer. Um, so I'm a little different in that I don't do the whole social, not that there's a lot of
Yeah,
social
yeah.
after rodeo,
You're
but
all
you know what I
business.
mean?
I know that feeling. I know
Yeah.
that feeling.
Um, So, but yeah, definitely. And, there's kind of a close knit, there's always a few of us from South Dakota that seem, or, like the Dakotas that seem to travel out. And so you kind of watch out for each other out there. But even the girls from all over the country, you get to be pretty close because you feel each other's pain. You're all kind of going through the same struggle from day to day. So definitely feel some empathy for each other.
I gotcha. Well, I'm going to dive in on something that includes guys like me. So what is your, like, get in the zone you're about to ride and go in the ring? Are you a music person? Are you everybody leave me alone person? What's your get hyped up before you go and actually ride?
I don't really have a thing, I guess. I just, no matter what, I just always kind of try to picture each barrel in my head and how I need to ride my horse around each barrel and kind of focus on that. But yeah, like I'm not one of those people that, don't talk to me because you'll break my focus. But I also, again, have 5 kids. So it's like, there's a lot of distractions usually. But yeah, I don't, I just kind of try to picture the perfect run in my head, and I don't think I need to get real hyped up or need to worry about people breaking my focus. It's just, focus on my run at hand, but I can do that and have a conversation with someone at the same time usually. So
I know exactly what you mean. I know there's some people that have to have these rituals and all that before they step on stage. People ask me, like,
yeah,
what do you have to do before you play? And I'm like,
yeah,
get my guitar. I don't know. I just go up there
right,
and do it.
right.
So I know exactly what you mean. But
Yeah.
obviously being a musician, I don't tie more music in here. So what kind of music do you like? What do you listen to? And what's your go-to there?
Um, I listen to a variety. So I country music obviously is probably most of it. And I like old and new and all country music. I also have a weird, like I like musicals. And so I have some like soundtrack music on my playlist from different musicals. Then you'll also throw in like my kids, of course, like all the Disney music. And so I've got
I
some
knew
of
that.
that.
I was waiting to see if that was coming out there.
Secretly, I do actually like it as well. It's not just because they do. So, yeah, it's a bit of variety, and yeah, like oldies, rock and roll. Like there's not. I love music, and there's not a lot of music I don't like. So
That's awesome. That's awesome.
yeah.
Well, anything last that you want to tell all the listeners, or where we can find you, or any message at all you want to throw out there at the end?
Um, sure. You can find me on Facebook. Jessica Routier, professional barrel racer, is my professional barrel racer page. And then I'm on Instagram a little bit. One of my kids' babysitters started an Instagram page for me a few years ago, but I do actually post on it once in a while. If you see me on TikTok, that would be my 3 little girls. So I'm not sure what you'll see on there. But that's about it. And hopefully you'll be able to see us in Vegas this year. So super
Well, we are
excited.
trying to get out there as well. So we'll make sure we catch up with you. And thanks
Yeah.
again for being a part of the music video. For those of y'all have seen
Yeah.
Keep Up With A Cowgirl, she's one of our female athletes that's featured in it. So thank you for taking the time. Thank you for doing all this, and good
Thank
luck on
you.
the upcoming year for you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks for coming in.